Announcement, everyone. I figured out the key to happiness. Are you ready? Are you ready for it? Okay, don't put that much pressure on me. Um, this is not. I shouldn't have to say this because, like, I was just being dramatic and joking. Um, and I don't know that this is actually the key to happiness, really. It's definitely on the path, though. I mean, I'm on a tangent now because happiness is this like fallacy that we're all trying to like get to, but the reality is that life isn't good all the time and it's not bad all the time. We have good times, we have bad times, um, and it's how we relate to those times of our lives that matter, really. And so I was thinking about how I'm pretty sure the only thing that we have control over is our own perception. And sometimes it doesn't even feel that way though. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we have control over our perception, but what we do have is choice. And choice is a thing that humans have. Um, and I think in a lot of ways that makes us unique as beings. And it also makes us dangerous. Now, this is not to say that other beings on Earth don't have choice, um, but it seems like humans are the only ones who, like, what is it I'm trying to say? I mean, I think humans are the only ones who think in depth about our choices. No? That's something that I'm just hearing right now. Like, I like to think that, animals also have human like conversations, but I don't know if that's true. But honestly, I'm getting on a tangent here. The reason I started recording was to say that the only thing that we have control over, I think, is our perception. And our perception also is deeply connected to our choice. That's how those connect. Um, we get so much like power back when we reclaim our ability to choose. And I think that's something that I struggled with for a long time. When you're like in the depth of the shadows and you're like going through a spiritual awakening, for example, or when things are really hard and it just feels like you're in this deep dark place where you can't get out of, it doesn't feel like we have a choice, but we do. And my therapist has reminded me of this multiple times. Shout out to my therapist. But when I really think about it, I don't know that I can really think of anything else that we have control other than our perception. Because many of us, I think, feel like things have happened to us that we didn't choose and we had no control over. Um, and while that is true in many cases, I personally feel the way to get through that is to reclaim the power of choice and perspective. For me, a lot of that came through the practice of like expanding my perception, which eventually led me to learn that I had psychic gifts, and that's like a huge part of who I am. And if I hadn't like expanded my perception that far, I wouldn't have been able to know that about myself. And I believe that everyone has the ability to access these psychic senses, but if you're going to do that, if you want to do that, you have to expand your perception. But this like comes back to light work in itself. The practice of light work is expanding consciousness, it's expanding perception. It is expanding the binary, polarized thinking of, light being good and dark being bad. It's completely like erasing that idea and looking at everything from a more neutral point of view, which, don't get me wrong, is not easy all the time. And that's why it's a choice. Like, that's why it's a choice that has to be made. You have to want to make that choice, because sometimes stuff is terrible. It is. And in those moments, we are challenged to make a choice of how we are going to proceed and how we are going to view, or how we're going to perceive what's going on. This is not to say that we turn away from the things that are hard. It actually is quite the opposite. It means that we look directly at the things that are hard as well as the things that are great. And within that duality, we choose our perception. And that doesn't mean, sometimes it could be fun to be delusional, but that doesn't mean like denying someone else's experience or denying the state of the world through our choice to like ignore it. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to choose that genocide isn't real. No, it's real. It's happening in real time right now. So it's not about that. It's not about being like, I'm choosing to like not see that or not see the inequalities that exist. It's more so like, what I'm saying is more so like taking back one's own sense of personal power to choose our own like personal perception of life itself, basically. Like, we have to accept, if we're on Earth right now, we have to accept that there is some heavy contrast going on. But here's the thing about contrast, because contrast isn't bad. Contrast is great, actually. Great. See, that's like a type of perception. I love contrast because I use that in my art a lot. But the thing with contrast is that it like illuminates things. That's why I love contrast. And I've learned to love contrast over time. And I'm talking about literal contrast, like that I use with light and shadow, like in my photography, like that kind of thing. But the very fact of the matter is, living on Earth is a very polarizing experience and place right now. Like, right now it is. And I think that there's a level of acceptance that needs to happen before we're able to move forward. And that level of acceptance is that contrast exists here. And that makes sense to me. I think that's just a natural state of living on this Earth, actually, which makes me wonder about all the other galaxies out there. But, for the most part, everywhere on Earth is cyclical, whether you're waking up to the sun and going to bed at night when it goes into the other side of the Earth, like when the sun sets, like where it's like sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Most people on Earth are living that cycle, and so it's a natural way of us existing. Even in places that are like light for months and months at a time, those places eventually go into darkness for months and months at a time. It's a different cycle, but it's still the light and dark cycle, the light and shadow cycle. And so we just have to accept that that is the literal nature of living on Earth. And when we are able to accept that, we expand our perception of that metaphor, which is expanding the understanding that sometimes life feels hard and sometimes it feels good. Because if you don't accept that that's a cycle that we go through on multiple occasions at multiple times in our lives, then you will get stuck in the shadows. And I know this because I've been there. I have a tendency to get stuck in the shadows because I am so curious about my shadows. I know that the shadows are just as valuable as the light pockets because one gives context for the other. And so, with me personally, I have a tendency to fall into the shadows. I think there's a big difference between illuminating the shadows and seeing what we have to learn from the shadows and falling into them. It's a very fine line, and I have definitely been one to fall into the shadows. It's like I'm like looking over a cliff to like explore the shadow, and I just like whoop, just fall into the pit of darkness. Like I've been there so many times, and it's through being there so many times that I can tell you your power comes back when you realize that your ability to expand your perception into the realm of choosing what that perception is, that's when you get power back. And that's when your access to the goodness of things becomes more tangible because you have more context for it. And I think this is just what living on Earth is. I'd be curious how other people feel about it. But in my personal experience, that's how it is. And I feel like it's one of the only choices we have. I'll think on this more. Sorry, it's not one of the only choices we have, but it's one of the only things we control. Our perception is one of the only things that we control, and but it's something that is like a practice. Like, it's not necessarily something that happens overnight if it's not something that you were taught. And even if you were taught that when you were young, it's kind of a lesson that we all have to learn through practice, like through trial and error. Like, I don't know about you, but my parents could tell me like multiple times certain truths, but I didn't actually learn those truths until I lived my experience, because there's no taking away someone's experience. Really, everyone's experience is their experience, and we all have to have experiences. That's what living on Earth as a human is. So this is my invitation to you to expand your perception, and that's a lot of what Lightwork Mastery is about, and what Lightwork is about in general. It's about expanding our perception of contrast, basically. And I think, I just love contrast. It has so many stories to tell.